7:30, Starbucks. This is the kind of day we're having, boys. This is the kind of day we're having. Would you please stop licking my dash? Got the double shot because this video is one of like 3 I'm filming tonight. I mean, they're all like outlined and written. I've just been so busy. I wanted to film these during the daylight and there's just not enough hours in the day. Ooh, love this lens though. I always forget how much I love this lens. Maintenance required, problem solved. Now just, home sweet home. I just love that it has like battle wounds. This is an Airstream that actually gets used. Kind of a weird concept. Double shot. That's my limit. I did a quad once when we were driving through Kansas. It wasn't quite intentional. I ordered a double shot and they messed up the order, but the only thing they messed up was they gave me the wrong size. They gave me a size smaller than what I had ordered, which not a huge deal because I paid for it, so it was kind of like, yeah, I kind of want that. And they were like, oh, you can just have both of them. And both of them had a double shot in it. So I drank them both. And basically traversed the entire state of Kansas, among other places. I think we had left Denver that morning. Yeah, we don't need to go that extreme. It's been 1 year. Technically, it'll be a year in, by the time you're watching this, in a couple weeks. But for all intents and purposes, it's been 1 year. Let's be real. This isn't working exactly. Some things are working great, some things not so much. I'm actually gonna do a dedicated video on things I want to change, like things that did and didn't work. This video is gonna be more of like an overview, a little bit of history, why I got the Airstream, why I did what I did, and you know, kind of how I feel about it in general. So like if you're thinking about getting an Airstream, or maybe just this lifestyle in general, this is mostly gonna be if you're thinking about an Airstream, I think, but if you're thinking about this life in general, yeah, let's just get into it. First things first, a little bit of history. If you don't know, if you're new to the channel, if you just found this because of this video, a little over a year ago, my whole life fell apart. I sold everything, cars, house, you name it. Decided I was gonna buy an Airstream and start traveling around the country. I'd never owned an RV. I'd barely ever been in an RV. I knew nothing about RVs. Still barely know anything about RVs. And that's pretty much what I did. Why an Airstream versus XYZ, whatever, name your RV. So as I mentioned, I was never into RVs. I never paid any attention to them, but there was 2 things I always noticed in life. And that is, I always kind of seemed to make a point if somebody was in the car with me and I saw an Airstream, I kind of pointed out like, oh yeah, there's an Airstream, those are cool. I just thought they looked cool, honestly. And I have another habit of pointing something out, and if you have a non-Airstream RV, you might take offense to this, but all the other RVs always just have the stupidest, most random pinstriping design pattern thing on the sides or the back, along with the most cliche name like Sunseeker, or honestly, I don't know. Sunseeker was the only one I wrote. And that's honestly why I got an Airstream. I know a lot of people ask like, oh, you know, why would you get an Airstream? Because they cost so much more money. I'd heard that over and over again, but to be honest, I didn't actually fully grasp that until later when I was doing laundry in New Mexico one day at an RV park and just started Googling like every RV around while I was waiting on my laundry and fully expecting them to be significantly more than what my unit cost, only to find out that they all cost significantly less. So that was I was like, okay, I kind of get it now. A couple other quick things about why this unit particular. Why 22 foot? I actually wanted a 23. Although I will say that my ideal floor plan is what they call the CB, the corner bed. I still think it would be a good floor plan, mind you. But this actually worked out pretty well because you can't see it right now when I'm filming, really, but I took out the dinette and the table. I've got a whole video on that. You can check it out. And once I did that, it kind of solved all the space issues. The other thing is, honestly, I was just having trouble finding a 23 foot corner bed, and the price gap is massive. Once you step up to a 23 foot, you get a double axle, which I also kind of like the appeal of that. But the price significantly goes up. We're talking 20, 30 grand. I paid somewhere around like 54, 55, I think, for this unit. and a comparable 23-foot corner bed was gonna be like 80 plus. That's a pretty big price difference. And for all those you who are wondering, RVs generally kind of fall in the middle. They're not financed like cars, but they're also not financed like a house. Typical is like 15 years with a down payment. So I forget how much I put down, maybe like 5,000 or 7,000. I don't remember, honestly. And my payment ended up being like $400 a month. So, I mean, not bad. Let's talk about some of my regrets and kind of dislikes. First and foremost, do I regret this purchase? No, I don't. Frankly, for me to get a bigger Airstream was going to be a huge struggle to get approved for financing for that, even though the payment difference is very minimal because, you know, it's 15 years. Going down lower would have been, like I said, the 22-foot works, but definitely like at that limit. I mean, I could probably make a 21-foot work, or is it 20? Is the next step down 20? I don't know, because it depends on how the bathroom is. The bathroom does kind of waste some space, not gonna lie. It also gives me full width. That was also the big thing that I kind of liked about when you stepped up to the double axle is you got like another 8 inches in width, which when you have 200 pounds of German Shepherds is actually kind of handy, because watching Enzo try to turn around before I took out the dinette is what made me decide to take out the dinette. And frankly, had the unit been 8 inches wider, I may not have had to. I may still have, because honestly, I don't know what I would do with a dinette, but yeah, I mean, width would be huge. You know, if they made an Airstream that was shorter, but wider, if you could get a 20-foot, but get it in the width of like the 30-foot Airstream, oh my gosh, that would be like my dream scenario, because it's width that I need more of with the pups rather than actual length. So that would be cool, but unfortunately, they don't make that. How I chose to get in the 22, 23-foot range, though, is fortunately the dealership in Columbus, which was, you know, hour and a half away, between new and used units, had 16, 19, 20, I don't think there's a 21, 22, and 23, and 25, and 27 foot in various, some were carousels, some were internationals, but I didn't care about the fixtures. I was trying to determine what unit felt like it was enough room for me, Enzo, Lotus, and Rally. I started with the 16. Technically, I started with the base camp 16 just to see, and that was just, no. That immediately I knew that wasn't going to work. And I just kept going in them and just kind of seeing, like, you know, because I've lived with these pups for years and Rally for years. Like, I kind of have a feel of what, like, minimum space we could get by with. And the 23-foot really just felt the best, if I'm being completely honest. But like I said, having moved everything out, the 22 is good. I had contemplated, when I was having trouble finding a corner bed, I had contemplated getting a 23-foot front bed, and I am so glad I didn't do that. That would be the worst case scenario for me. Part of the reason that this unit works is that you can't walk around my bed, which I know some people don't like, but when you're the only human sleeping in it and you've got 2 pups, they can lay up against the wall, which they love, by the way, because it's always nice and cool. It's the aluminum. And I don't have to worry about them falling off. So I sleep on the edge and they're in there and like they're good. So even though it's technically a slightly smaller than, it's like a rounded off queen size bed, I actually feel like I have more space in that bed than I do in a queen bed that's like in a house. Actually, my house bed was a king size bed. But I feel like the pups and I are way more comfortable on this bed than we ever were in that one, just because they can't fall off. So we get to use like every inch of the bed all the way up to the edges, and that makes a huge difference. Some other dislikes I have about the smaller units and the more entry level, this is technically what they call sport. While I don't care about fancy fixtures, one of the things I do wish my unit had is like the full open windows. Mine only have the partial open, which is called more of like a vent window. You know, heat is a huge issue, so the more windows, the better. It would be kind of nice to have those. It's not a huge deal, but like I wouldn't mind it. The one non-Airstream that I kind of like, since owning this and like that day of researching them, just sitting there waiting on my laundry, the one unit type that I will say does kind of appeal to me. And I also looked this up because somebody asked me like, why didn't you get a toy hauler? Why didn't you consider a toy hauler? To which I responded, I don't know what that is. So I looked them up and they're basically kind of what they sound like. They're meant for hauling ATVs and dirt bikes and toys. So the back opens up kind of like a mini garage. It's just big and open, like there's nothing there. Even if you have a smaller size toy hauler, still a lot of floor space. And that's kind of what I'm doing here, is creating floor space for the pups and Rally. So I have to say, like, if I was to do it again and not get an Airstream, that would be like probably the main thing I would look at as a toy hauler. I hate that they have such lacking windows. Yeah, I mean that just really sucks. Like, there's no way around that. That's an issue I have with all those types of non-Airstream RVs, is they just don't let in enough light and wind and airflow and just... But anyways, that would probably be like the one that I would kind of consider, is that style. So I made a list of some changes that I was going to mention in this video. The thing is, most of these changes aren't necessarily Airstream specific. It's kind of like if I had any RV, I would want to make these changes. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make that a separate video. The one thing that I would say when it comes to the Airstream that I would severely rethink is the air conditioner. You know, in my mind, that was the backup. If all else failed, that's why I was carrying such a huge generator all this time. I traveled around with this massive generator because I was like, you know, worst comes to worst, we get somewhere stuck where it's too hot, fire up the generator, run the AC, and, you know, we'll just deal with it. You know, I'll run through a little extra propane that week or for a couple days, not a huge deal. That's not really the case. This thing struggles to make much of a dent, honestly. Whether I'm hooked up to the generator or hooked up to an RV park, I was severely disappointed when I got to actually use the AC, to the point that I thought, gosh, there's got to be something wrong with this unit. But from what I can tell from researching, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just kind of how it is. And that's very disappointing. So what I would love to do is, first of all, take it off the roof, because it's just an eyesore to begin with. If it wasn't for the pups, I would have tried to take that off already, because I knew, me personally, I was never going to use it for myself. And it's such an eyesore on the outside of the Airstream. I'm strongly looking into mini splits, having a mini split put in. That I think would be ideal and actually cool the unit down, and probably use a significant amount less power. So if you are thinking about this lifestyle, whether it's an Airstream or anything else, I would maybe start exploring AC alternatives. Thankfully, thanks to some amazing subscribers and Patreons, I was able to get the pups a Zero Breeze portable air conditioner. So I was able to, you know, put up the curtain on, makeshift curtain on the bed, kind of zone that off, keep everything nice and cool on those hot days. But yeah, I would not rely on the AC unit. That's just my thing. But with that, like I said, I want to keep this video short. I appreciate you all as always. If you have any questions about Airstreams or this Airstream or just my experience traveling, by all means, you can leave them below or you can DM me. Be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I appreciate you all as always. And since this is going up during the holidays, shameless merch plug, I do have merch. Appreciate you all as always, and I'll see you on the next one. Later.